Welcome to Traveling While Black.
Hey, what's up? I'm Anthony, this is my wife Marley, and welcome to another episode of Traveling While Black.
Yes, welcome back everyone. As a brief reminder, our show is based on our experiences traveling, and we base those experiences off of how good of a drive it was, how much fun we had, and most importantly, how comfortable do we feel as Black people visiting for the first time. So welcome to our second episode of Black History Month 2023. So for this episode, we are going to focus on a little known but very important figure in Black history of Washington State, and that is George Washington.
Yep, the Black George Washington, who founded the town of Centralia, Washington. If you remember back in episode 84, we also covered another Black man who founded the town right here in Washington, and ironically shared the same name of a former U.S. president. His name was George Bush, who founded the town of Tumwater.
Yes, and just like episode 84, we're heading down to see how Centralia honors its founding father. And also like episode 84, we will not have a level of fun grade or a comfortability for Black people rating.
But we will have a drive grade rating in case anybody's interested in going down to take a visit. So take a look at this episode, and as always, let us know what you think.
For this Black History Month, we are once again telling the story of a man who got tired of the environment he was living in, so he moved out of the state of Missouri and headed to settle in the Pacific Northwest, and in doing so, made history.
And once again, we're not talking about me. Ha!
Nope, we're talking about George Washington, an extremely intelligent Black man who founded a new city in the state of Washington that is still incorporated to this day.
Born in 1817, George Washington, the son of an enslaved Black man, was handed over to a white couple, Anna and James Cochran, to be raised as their foster child shortly after his father was sold. The decision to take George in as one of their own could arguably be considered one of the best decisions they ever made, because of the fact that George was a genius.
George's genius was evident early on. He taught himself to read, and he also had an uncanny ability to do advanced math in his head. George's genius ability enabled him to start and run multiple successful businesses.
After growing tired of the racism that made it difficult to conduct business in Missouri, George decided that he was going to move to the Pacific Northwest so to find better opportunity and more freedom. So in 1850, George, joined by his foster parents, loaded up a wagon and headed west.
After a brief stay in Oregon for obvious historical reasons, George and the family crossed over into what would become Washington Territory. Leveraging that his foster parents were white, George was able to stake claim to 640 acres that he lived on and farmed.
After catching word that his land would be a central point on a new railroad, George identified an opportunity. So George and his wife, Mary Jane Washington, got to work plotting out a town. And on January 8, 1875, the couple filed the plat for their town, which they called Centerville, which would eventually change its name to its current, Centralia.
The town would steadily grow, and a lot due to George's generous deals on land. And George's generosity to residents and potential residents continued throughout his life. George was a civic leader and a revered member of the town.
George passed away on August 26, 1905 at the age of 87. It was said that on the day of his funeral, the town shut down and every resident attended.
When it was all said and done, George Washington was responsible for founding the town, growing the town, and at even one point saving the town. So to celebrate George's contribution to Washington State Black history, we headed to see how that town recognizes this Black man's contribution.
Drive grade. It was around an hour-and-a-half drive to get to Centralia from Seattle, and at least direction-wise, the drive was pretty simple, as it was just a straight shot south down I-5.
Although we will say that in terms of length, for some reason the drive felt kind of long, even though traffic was free-flowing the whole way down.
In regards to driving to and accessing the monuments and landmarks to George Washington, it was really easy.
Other than the longer feeling ride, there wasn't really much to complain about on our drive down to Centralia.
Though we can confidently say that this trip could be a lot different on a weekday afternoon through a rush hour.
But again, for our drive, we give a 4 out of 5 for drive grade. Level of fun. so the town of Centralia was bigger than we thought. But still and yet, we were easily able to locate the first spot honoring George Washington, George Washington Park.
George Washington Park is located on the corner of South Pearl and Main Street in front of the Centralia Timberland Library, and is actually the original piece of land that George and his wife Mary set aside for a town square.
The park, which is popular for holding town events, has a gazebo and a monument dedicated to World War I veterans. But the monument more important for our visit was a statue of George and his wife Mary.
The statue of the Washingtons was recently erected in 2018 and designed with some really great detail, like a replica of the original plotting map created by George and Mary to plot the town. The statue was dope, but in my biased opinion, the man who the park is named after should have the biggest monument in the park, but that's just me.
After checking out the statue commemorating George, we wanted to see if we could still visit his gravesite to pay our respects, and sure enough, that too was pretty easy to find.
Going to Centralia's Washington Lawn Cemetery, it is easy to see that the town's founding father is located within, not only by the plaque on the front of the entrance, but also by its placement at the center of the cemetery.
Buried next to George are the gravesites of his wife Mary, as well as his foster parents Anna and James Cochran. It was really cool to be standing at the site of such an important historical figure. It actually felt like a special experience.
All in all, we can say that the town actually did a great job at making George's legacy visible throughout, which was a lot different from the town founded by our other great black figure.
True. So if you're interested in celebrating state black history, we can definitely recommend visiting both the George Washington statue and gravesite. And again, we aren't giving a level of fun rating since we wanted to focus on finding artifacts for George.
Yep, so for a level of fun for this episode, we give an NA. Comfortability for black people. Just like level of fun for this episode, we will not be giving a comfort level for black people since we are focusing on black history.
We will say that the people we did encounter from the town during our time in Centralia made us feel extremely comfortable. All of the individuals we spoke to engaged us in conversation and was even excited to share what they knew about George Washington.
Although some of them did mention possible concerns that may affect comfortability within the county as a whole, still, with our focus being on black history, like we said, we can't really give an accurate rating.
So for our comfortability for black people rating today, we give an NA.
We hope you found this video helpful and entertaining. Be sure to check out all of our previous episodes.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our page on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check out our merchandise on travelwhileblackseattle.com. And reach out if there's anywhere you would like us to go check out.
Until next time, beautiful people, stay up, stay true, and do you.